I've always been the shy one between us. The quiet girl who blushed too easily, who looked away first, who whispered her wants instead of shouting them. He loved that about me. At least that's what he said every time he caught me hiding my face behind my hands after he made me tremble. But today the shyness was suffocating me. He'd been gone for a week, trapped in endless meetings 3 states away, sending me stolen kisses through pixelated video calls. And last night, lying in bed alone with my phone warm in my hand, I couldn't stand missing him anymore. So I did it. I stood in front of my bedroom mirror in nothing but my favorite black set, the one I'd bought secretly, telling myself it was, just in case I ever got brave enough. I bit my lip, tilted my chin the way he liked, and snapped the photo before I could talk myself out of it. My finger hovered over the screen for what felt like an hour. Then, breath held stomach tight, I hit send. A second later, regret washed over me like cold water. What had I done? He'd laugh or worse, say nothing. Or maybe he'd be stuck in a meeting and not even look. I buried my face in my pillow, cheeks burning, heart thudding so hard I thought I might faint. But then a buzz. Another. Then the doorbell. I froze. It was raining outside. Who could possibly? I tiptoed to the window, my pulse a wild drumbeat against my ribs. And there he was. Standing on my porch, drenched head to toe, chest heaving like he'd run every mile from the airport to my door. He lifted his eyes to my window. And in that moment, with the storm behind him and my secret still warm in his pocket, I realized I'd just changed everything between us. I barely remember unlocking the door. My hands were trembling too badly to work the latch. By the time I swung it open, he was already stepping inside, rainwater dripping from his hair, his coat clinging to his shoulders like it wanted to stay attached to him. He didn't say hello, didn't smile, didn't even close the door behind him. He just looked at me. Really looked, like I was something dangerous he just decided to taste anyway. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to say something clever, or at least apologize for the photo I'd been dying to unsend ever since I pressed that stupid blue arrow. But the words never came. Instead, he reached past me and slammed the door shut with the flat of his palm. The echo shook my hallway, but not as much as his next words did. Now I'll show you why you'll never send that to anyone but me again. My whole body flushed hot, then cold. I opened my mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to beg, but he stepped closer, so close the rain on his skin brushed mine, so close I could taste the faint bitterness of the storm in the air between us. One fingertip lifted my chin. Just that. And yet it was enough to make my legs threaten to fold. You don't get to hide from me anymore, he whispered. His thumb traced the corner of my mouth, as if he was memorizing how brave I'd been for once. Part of me wanted to run, upstairs under the covers where the safe version of me lived. But another part, deeper and reckless, wanted to see how far he'd take this. I think he saw both girls inside me at once, the timid one and the wild one. He smiled, but there was nothing sweet in it. And before I could gather my next breath, he kissed me like an answer to every silent question I'd ever dared to ask. The first brush of his mouth against mine stole whatever caution I had left. It was soft at first, almost tender, but beneath it, I felt the promise of something rougher, something he'd been saving up every lonely night he'd spent in hotel rooms without me. His hand found the back of my neck, warm despite the chill still clinging to his coat. My fingers bunched in the damp fabric at his shoulders, needing to anchor myself before I dissolved right there in the hallway. When he pulled back just enough to look at me, I tried to speak. I really did. But the only sound I managed was a helpless, breathless little whimper that made him huff a laugh against my cheek. God, look at you, he murmured. Shaking already. He pressed me gently but firmly against the wall, pinning me there with nothing but the weight of his eyes and the press of his hips. I could feel his heartbeat through the wet fabric between us, or maybe it was mine echoing back at me. Do you have any idea, he said, each word rolling slow and low, what you did to me with that picture? I tried to shake my head, but his hand slid into my hair, holding me still. The other traced my arm, goosebumps rising where his fingertips lingered. He studied that shiver like it was proof of something he'd always known but loved to watch anyway. I was halfway through dinner with the regional director. Didn't even say goodbye. Just left my plate, ran to my car. Got caught in this damn storm and didn't care. He leaned in, brushing his nose against my temple, his breath hot against my ear. I'm going to teach you, he whispered, voice like velvet and threat all at once. What happens when you dare to make me lose control? My hand slid under his coat, feeling the hard lines of his back, the warmth hidden under soaked fabric. I should have been embarrassed. Maybe I was. But the heat crawling up my neck left no room for shame. Outside, the rain kept pounding against the windows. Inside, I realized I didn't want shelter. I wanted the storm he'd brought to my doorstep. I barely had time to gasp before his hand slipped to my thighs, and in one smooth motion, he hoisted me up against him. Instinct took over. My legs locked around his waist, my arms around his neck. The hallway, the rain, the world outside, all gone. All I could feel was him. The wet chill of his coat pressed to the backs of my thighs, the steady, unyielding heat of his chest against mine. The way his mouth found the hollow below my ear and lingered there, tasting my skin like he'd been starved for it. He carried me down the hallway without looking where he was going, as if the map of my little apartment had burned itself into him long ago. He kicked the bedroom door open. It swung hard, banged against the wall, and then we were inside, surrounded by soft lamplight and the faint scent of my perfume still hanging in the air from when I'd taken that photo. He set me down on the edge of the bed but didn't step back. He stood over me, dripping, looming, eyes locked on mine like he was daring me to look away first. "Take this off me," he said, voice hoarse with the kind of hunger that made my insides twist tight. My fingers fumbled with the buttons of his coat, the rain-slick fabric cold under my palms. Each button undone felt like a tiny confession. Yes, I want you. Yes, I missed you. Yes, I sent that photo for this. When I finally pushed the coat off his shoulders, it landed on the floor with a wet thud neither of us cared about. Underneath, his shirt clung to him, transparent in places, teasing glimpses of the lines I'd traced so many times in the dark. He caught my wrists before I could tug at the hem. He didn't say anything, just leaned down and kissed my knuckles slow and reverent, before pressing my hands flat against his chest. "Feel that," he murmured against my forehead, his heart hammering wild beneath my palms. "That's what you do to me." I looked up at him, breath shaky, chest so tight it almost hurt, and in that moment, I knew whatever came next would rewrite every quiet version of myself I'd ever hidden behind. For a second, the room was so quiet I could hear the rain tapping at the window behind him, a steady, delicate rhythm so at odds with the storm building inside me. He held my hands against his chest like they were something precious, but his eyes said he was about to ruin me sweetly for every shy excuse I'd ever made. "Lie back," he said, low but unmistakable. Heat flared up my throat. I hesitated. He saw it, of course he did. One corner of his mouth twitched, like he adored every stuttering heartbeat I failed to hide. With a soft exhale I obeyed. I eased myself back until my shoulders met the pillows, my legs bent just enough that my skin brushed his trousers. The cotton of my sheets felt suddenly scandalous against my bare back. He shrugged out of his damp shirt and tossed it somewhere behind him. The lamplight caught the droplets on his skin, turning him into something carved out of rain and want. "Do you have any idea?" he murmured as he crawled onto the bed, knee sinking into the mattress beside my hip. "How many times I pictured this while I was away?" I shook my head, or maybe I tried to say I did, but the words tangled themselves up in the air between us. His fingertips brushed the side of my knee, trailing upward with a patience that felt like torture. Every inch he claimed left a bloom of fire in its wake. "You were so quiet on our calls," he whispered, lips grazing my collarbone, smiling like an angel, while I lay awake wondering how you'd look if you ever let go for me. My breath shuddered out of me. I felt him smile against my throat, a wicked, knowing thing. Then his hand slid beneath my back, lifting me just enough that our chests pressed together. I gasped at the sudden closeness, the heat, the way his body pinned me down and dared me to keep pretending I was shy. And right there, trapped beneath him in the soft weight of my own heartbeat, I realized I didn't want to pretend anymore. Not tonight. Not with him. His mouth found mine again, deeper this time, hungrier. It wasn't the gentle teasing kiss he'd given me at the door. This one tasted like rain and relief and a promise that I'd never doubt how much I belonged to him. I could feel the storm inside him in the way his hands roamed, one tangled in my hair, the other sliding down, coaxing a shiver from my stomach to my thighs. My body answered him before my mind caught up. My hips lifted, breath caught, A quiet sound slipped past my lips that made him growl low in his throat. "You don't get to hide," he murmured into my mouth, words breaking against my gasp. "Not tonight." I barely managed to nod, a helpless, wordless plea for more. He gave it without mercy. Every inch of him pressed into me until I forgot about the photo, the rain, the walls I'd built inside my own skin. All that existed was the way his voice rasped my name between kisses, the way his warmth sank into me and replaced the quiet girl I'd been with something fierce and trembling and completely his. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his hair damp against his forehead, his breath rough against my cheek. One thumb brushed the corner of my mouth as if he couldn't believe I was real under him like this. "Say it," he said, his voice a command and a prayer all at once. "Say you're mine." I didn't even try to fight it. My body arched toward him, my hands clutching at his shoulders like they'd fall apart without him to hold them steady. "I'm yours," I whispered, every nerve lit up, every fear burned away by the storm he'd brought crashing through my front door. "Only yours." He smiled then, that rare, devastating smile that meant he'd won, and I'd never wanted losing so badly. Outside, the rain eased into a gentle hush against the glass. Inside, he showed me exactly why I'd never dare send another photo like that to anyone else for as long as I lived. And somewhere in the blur of skin and breath and whispered promises, I realized this wasn't about a picture anymore. It was about every hidden part of me I'd finally let him see. The end.